personnel actions and changes and things that we need to do, as well as having committee reports from members of the board. As you are aware, in the summer months, we don't conduct that much business, so that these are relatively routine matters. We will have an audience of citizens, as is required by the Sunshine Law of the state of Pennsylvania. And when we get to that particular portion of the meeting, I will point you out as you raise your hand, ask you to step to the podium, state your name and address, and address any topic that relates to the district as you may wish. I would like you to limit, because of the late start, and I apologize for that, your questions 2 minutes. I think you can adequately do that, or comments in 2 minutes. I will also have a statement after the Pledge of Allegiance regarding several things, and those comments will pertain in some cases to the audience of citizens this evening. So without further ado, would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Before we get into the approval of the minutes, and at the beginning of the meeting, it's my pleasure to be able to introduce our new superintendent sitting to my right, Dr. Edward Bud Bose. As most of you know, he has had a distinguished career as the superintendent at the school district of Wayne Township in Indiana, and Indianapolis, Indiana. And we are fortunate to have been able to attract him to come here. 9 members of this school board voted unanimously to have him here, and he comes to us with great credentials, high standards, and impeccable character. We're very excited the fact that he has agreed to come here and that we selected him to lead our district into the future. I'm very confident that he will give us a fresh look and hopefully lead us on to greater things, both academically and extracurricular activity-wise throughout the district. And I feel very confident that given the support of the community, that he will lead us on to even greater heights than we've seen in the past. So without any further ado, Dr. Bud Bose.
Well, I must acknowledge how flattered I am that at my first board meeting I have such a big turnout. I'm not naive enough to believe that you came to see me or hear me. And so while I don't have a lot to say, and I've chosen to say what might be appropriate opening meetings remarks when all of the board members can be here at a later date, I do want to share some observations with you, as I've shared with the Board of Education in the past. Part of my analysis of whether or not to leave a comfortable job that I enjoyed and a comfortable home where I reared a family after 17 years was the enormous potential I saw that this community demonstrates. It's unrealized yet in my view, and you probably feel the same way from a variety of perspectives, but certainly in my estimation and the investigation I was able to do through casual as well as formal means, I think that this is a school district that can be on the verge of greatness. And I hope to be a part of helping lead and follow those who will make that happen, which certainly includes the community members and the people that support the public schools. Thank you for your kind welcome. I look forward to meeting each of you as time permits and to working in a enjoyable and successful and satisfying tenure here at North Penn. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bud. Before we proceed tonight, there's 2 other things that I would like to discuss. Some general remarks. One about the special counsel that the school board hired to investigate an alleged anti-Semitic incident. James Darby was selected by the board and has worked diligently and has now just completed his investigation and the writing of his report. Earlier this evening, the board met an executive session with Mr. Darby for approximately an hour, and that I apologize why we were late. We had a lot of questions from Mr. Darby. And it was the first time which the board was able to see the results of his report. We have decided that we will vote tonight on the date that we will release the report. And it's my belief that all members of the board, within reason, should receive copies and be able to read the report prior to the report being released to the public. Understanding that one of the board members is not with us tonight and will not be returning to the lower 48 states within the next week or so, our decision will be made without or with regarding that, or without regarding that, however you want to look at it. The other two board members who are not with us tonight will be returning in the next few days and will receive copies of that report prior to the public release. I will also ask the board and from commenting or releasing their copies of the report to anyone else other than themselves. At this point in time, it is still a client-attorney privileged document until we release it as a board, and it takes a consensus of the board to do that prior to us releasing it. So I would ask at appropriate time, perhaps during other business, that we would vote on the actual date. And that has to do with specifically when the other two board members that are close will be returning home. Okay? As for the audience of citizens, you may make comments regarding the report. However, neither myself nor the board members will respond to any questions asked about what's in the report, the content of the report, and the specific time until we vote on it as to when it will be released. So we will not take any action in terms of the report until the board can meet in a session that after they have been able to read the report thoroughly and then ask Mr. Darby if there's any questions or clarifications at that time. So here again, it would not be appropriate then during the audience of citizens to ask us specific questions about the report. Okay, that's all I'll comment on that. I know also many of you have been concerned about reports that I'm leaving the district. Yes, I'm moving to Colorado, and in fact, I'm in the process of trying to get my family out there now. So they wondered when I'm going to resign from the board. No one on the board knows this, and it's my intent to resign as president during the Section 6 of the board during other business. I will conduct this meeting as my last meeting and then resign, and the board members here can in fact vote for who they would like to be the interim president. I'm also announcing that I will, by the end of August, set a date for when I specifically will resign from the board, which gives us time to solicit resumes from the public to replace me. The process will be such that between now and the end of August, I would project if anyone out there would like to serve, ill-advised as it might be, just kidding. If you'd like to do that, please prepare a resume of your background and provide it to the board secretary, Mr. Ken Weir, here at the ESC, and I'll go ahead and set a date by the 30th of August. That'll allow the board a few weeks' time to review those specific resumes and schedule a meeting or an interview session with you or with whomever they choose to interview, and then make a selection at the first board meeting in September, the first action meeting in September. And I would project then that they could, if they vote on someone at that meeting, seat that person at that meeting right then. So that would allow continuity within the district, the action meeting for August having 9 seated members, and the first meeting in September that's an action meeting having 9 seated members. So that's what I plan to do, and at that point we'll go on from there. People asked me why I stayed as long as I did, and I made a pledge to this community that I would support them and do what I needed to do in terms of the education of the community and in terms of some outstanding events. For example, the Darby report, also for Dr. Bose coming on, that I felt that it was important for continuity that I remain as president to that point. Both of those key things have been achieved, and that's why I will be resigning as of the other business portion of the meeting. Okay? That being said, I think it's time to move on to the agenda items. Is there a recommendation for approval of the minutes of the 699th meeting held on the 15th of June?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Allen, second by Whites. Any questions? Any changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a recommendation for approval of the minutes, or is there a move to approve the minutes of the 700th meeting?
Make a
700th
motion to
meeting.
approve the
Wow.
700 and 701st.
That's it. We do them all one time?
You bet.
Okay, sounds good, Ralph.
Second.
Moved by Reckcamp, second by Allen, to approve the 700th and 701st meeting as circulated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports, first one, facilities, buildings, and grounds, Mr. Allen.
No report.
Okay. Community services and policy, Ms. Leahy.
No report?
Elementary ed, Mr. Clemens. He's not here. Who's his alternate? There's no.
Terry's not
There's no
here.
report.
Terry's not here either. Okay, no report. Secondary ed, Ralph.
No report.
Special ed and student services, Terry Prokowski. She's not
Terry's
here.
absence?
Who's her alternate? Vicki?
In-
Okay.
Tonight on the agenda for approval are 3 routine items. They include the yearly contract with Easter Seals for occupational therapy and physical therapy services. The student records policy, sometimes referenced as representational consent, and the contract with Lakeside School for alternative education students. The board will recall that during the 1994-95 school year, Lakeside Alternative School required school districts to contract for yearly slots for their alternative education program students. This practice is continuing for the 1995-96 school year. So as you know, we have to determine in advance just how many positions we would like to have reserved, and so in tonight's agenda, you will also find that request.
Right. Okay, thank you, Vicki. Any questions of Vicki? Okay. Let's see, support services, Donna's not here, is,
I'm the alternate. There are a number of items under support services that could also be categorized under personnel, and they will be brought forward during the superintendent's report.
okay. Any questions of David? Okay, thank you, David. Finance, Vicki, any items?
No report tonight.
Okay, thanks. Personnel, Mr. Whites?
Essentially the same report as before.
Okay. Legislative, Carmen.
Just since we haven't met in a while, the state did decide to leave the funding for early intervention where it currently stands. So all our efforts and all the community's efforts to get a hold of our legislators did seem to make some bit of difference, and hopefully we won't be going through this once again next year.
Yeah, that's a good sign. Thank you, Carmen. Any questions of Carmen? The MCIU has no report from me. North Monco, Ralph.
No report.
Merck Science Partnership, David, any report?
No report?
Okay, thanks. Any other committees or assignments that we had that we need a report from? Okay, great. All right, it's time for the audience of citizens. We'd like to come up to the audience. Mr. Robinson, call on him first. Please be reminded to state your name when you come up and your address.
Thank you, Malcolm. Gary Robinson, Hatfield Township. There is a serious problem in the district that involves the school board and the administration. I believe most people will agree on that. Could it be, though, that Donna Mengel was attacked with false accusations because she was outspoken about misuse of bond funds? purchase of the whole property, which lies only about 2,000 feet from the Bucks County line and about 2,000 feet from the Horsham Township line. Yet 20 years ago, the Knapp farm was taken by condemnation and then given back. And the unusual backroom dealing over the teacher's contract. More than a year ago, public comments by Donna Mengel concerning the financial irregularities of misuse of bond funds and these other situations raised my interest. So as the first project of the Lincoln Party was the financial activities of North Penn School District and a request of financial data, and as a result of that, the Gang of Five became rather hostile and angry. The response from these school board members was strong opposition, such as, I quote Carmen Leahy from the November 1794 school board meeting, "I find it offensive that the integrity of the school district and Mr. Kelly are being questioned. It is unfortunate that we are allowing this to happen." Allowing this to happen? The public questioning public officials on financial irregularities, being taken to task like we were in Nazi Germany. It seems that public inquiries are to be denounced and ridiculed. Earlier this year, I witnessed a very heated and threatening conduct of heated discussion and threatening conduct, Mr. Bowman towards Vicky Scher in the hallway right outside this door. Could it be that the religious conflict has been created as a smokescreen to hide the questions about the financial irregularities of the school district? Why is the Democrat and Republican parties silent? History shows that during the era of the Salem witch hunts, the mere accusation of something was enough to drown or burn the accused. In closing, let me read a brief letter to the General Counsel for the Lincoln Party, addressed to George Walker, and it's from James M. Sheehan, the new General Counsel for the Department of Education. Dear Mr. Walker, recently I assumed the position of Chief Counsel of the Department of Education, where I encountered your letter relating to the Lincoln Party's concerns of the North Penn School District financial transactions. I have reviewed the correspondence between the Lincoln Party and the department in an attempt to ascertain the most productive way for the Lincoln Party's concerns to be addressed. I paid particular attention to the reference to this department's right to audit the financial records of any district pursuant to 24 Pennsylvania statute, section 2410. I have been informed that the Auditor General's Office of School Audits will conduct a regularly scheduled audit of the North Penn School District within the next 2 months. Mr. Nicholas Boyd of that office has instructed his staff to investigate the records relevant to the Lincoln Party's allegations during the course of the regular audit of the school district. Members of the department's comptroller's office will be available to the Auditor General to assist in reviewing North Penn's financial records. I need to point out in closing that most people will have been misinformed by this board and the solicitor and other people. The state only audits the school district once every 2 years, and it only does a superficial so-called audit looking at the state subsidy, does not do a comprehensive audit of all the financial operations. As a result of the school district records which we have provided to the state officials, they are doing an expanded investigation or a little more in-depth, a more true audit of the bond issues and other financial irregularities.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. It's also come to my attention that, and I apologize to these three people, that we did receive, in fact, per our regulation or our policy, that if you wish to speak at the meeting to advise us beforehand, then you get priority in speaking. The first one is Mr. Bailey. Charles Bailey, would you like to speak?
Yes.
Okay, come on down.
I would like to comment on Mr. Darby's mission. Mr. Darby is a lawyer. Traditionally, the job of the lawyer is to work for the interest of the client. The judge is the one who's supposed to decide the truth. The lawyer is an advocate, and he advocates for his client. Mr. Darby's mission, to me, does not appear to be to discover the truth as to whether Donna Mengel actually said things that she was accused of. It seems to me that if he wanted merely to discover the truth, all he would have to do would be to polygraph 4 people and videotape them
videotape his interviews of them. One of those 4 people was at the meeting, Dennis Kelly, and he is quoted in the newspapers as having made rather firm statements that Donna did not say what she was accused of saying, and further, that no one could persuade her otherwise, which sounds like somebody was trying to persuade him to say something different. So it seems to me that if Darby's mission was to determine the truth, what he would have done would be to polygraph the 4 people who were present and see what they said about it. I think his real mission is to protect his client, who is the school board, and that includes Superintendent Persing, former Superintendent Persing, and includes Solicitor Potash, it includes Carmen Leahy, who faxed the accusations all over the place, and his real mission is to help crucify Donna Mingle. I think it looks like Darby's effort is really part of a campaign effort to defeat Donna Mingle in the upcoming election, and also to focus attention on a bogus statement and to divert attention away from the real issues which face this district, which are, should we spend $42 million to build a second high school? Why are SAT scores low? They're lower than Lansdale Catholic. And why are our costs per student higher than every single local private school in the area except for Germantown Academy? That doesn't make sense. Those are real problems that need to be addressed, and this diversion is a diversion. And I think that because of this, I don't think the taxpayers should pay for Darby's services. I think his fee should be covered by the people who voted to hire him and have him do that job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. The next letter I received was from Mr. Barry Morrison. Is he here? Sir, would you like to come to the mic, please?
Good evening. I'm Barry Morrison, the Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League. I intend to be brief. Thank you for the opportunity to make a statement to you today. The Anti-Defamation League, let me just very quickly state, is a human relations agency whose agenda it is to deal with hate and prejudice. It concerns itself with anti-Semitism and other forms of hate and works to bring about a more tolerant and accepting societies, accepting of people's differences. Our agenda in being here does not concern itself with school finances. We are not here because of our interest in or concerns about local political aspects of the school board's business. We're here because we, at heart, are concerned about human relations, about fair treatment of all people in this community, on this school board, within the school district, all children, and by extension, the society as a whole. So we have no hidden agenda, but to try to help to root out the truth and to see to it that to the extent there is any evidence, any convincing evidence that the accused made the statement alleged, that she and the statement be dealt with appropriately. We are troubled and concerned that this matter has dragged on longer than perhaps need be. We are encouraged at the same time that extraordinary efforts have been made through bringing in an outside counsel in order to achieve a sense of neutrality and to give deliberation, a sense of deliberation to this investigation, to bring light to the facts, to bring the facts to light, rather. And should it be confirmed, and we would expect and hope and urge for that matter, that the truth be revealed soon. As I said, this has dragged on way too long. It has led to many negative outcomes, which are quite apparent here in this community and throughout the city and the region. Should it be confirmed that the statement was made, we feel that you have no choice but to condemn it in unequivocal terms, to condemn it without any hesitation, to condemn it for your own self-respect and for the integrity of the school district. And we also would urge you to take whatever action be necessary to restore confidence in the leadership of the school district and the institution itself. leadership and the institution itself and being able to conduct its business with pride in knowing that when confronted with any smidgen of evidence that anti-Semitism or other forms of hate might exist, that they will be dealt with fully. And speaking of dealing with matters fully, when the report is issued, and again, we urge that it be done very quickly, we do believe that it would be very appropriate for the community as a whole to have ample opportunity to read it and to evaluate it and to learn from this experience so that this community can be cleansed of this most unfortunate incident and so that it can take pride ultimately with how it surmounts this hurdle and can hopefully put this matter behind it. And so in conclusion, we are here to stress, once again, we have done this privately via letter, in various phone call conversations and in other community forums. We're here to stress that the truth must emerge. The truth must emerge quickly when it is shown, if it is shown, that the statement was made and the school board member accused, if she made this outrageous statement, she must be dealt with very severely so that there is no doubt in people's mind that when such indiscretion and insensitivity is revealed, that it not be condoned, that it not be acceptable for a person in an esteemed body such as this to be able to carry forward and conduct their affairs with the taint of prejudice associated with their name. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. The third person was Mrs. Joan Nagel. Is there a Ms. Nagel here? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Bowman, School Board. Before I start, I want to congratulate Mr. Bowman on the long term that he served on the board and wish him luck in his new community.
Thank you.
August 14th is the...
For the record, state your name and address.
Joan Nagel, 236 South Main Street, North Wales.
Thank you.
I am the area leader of the North Penn Democratic Committee. August 14th is the last day for political candidates in the upcoming election to withdraw their names from the ballot. If you do not release this report this evening or tomorrow, the community, which has at this point a need and a right to know what is in the report so that it can exercise some influence on Mrs. Mangel's decision whether to stay in the race or withdraw, the community will be undercut. Do not prolong the doubts, the questions, and the divisiveness in this community. I do have a question about your statement regarding an election for an interim president. Who is eligible to stand for that election, and how will the vice president situation be dealt with during this meeting?
First of all, the vice president situation won't be dealt with at all. Secondly, and here I kind of sprung this on board members, so they're going to have to think between now and the end of the meeting. Any one of the seated board members and those that are not here could be nominated, in fact, elected by a majority of the people present.
It is not automatic that the vice president
No.
goes up to the presidency. Okay? If the report does disclose that this statement was actually made as has been alleged, I also call that for a motion to be made to hold hearings and investigate what exactly should be done about the title of vice president being associated with Mrs. Mangel at this time. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mangel. Okay, those are all the written requests that we had, and once again, I apologize, you were supposed to be first, but got Mr. Robinson in there instead. Anyone else like to speak at this time? Raise your hand, please. Ma'am in the front.
My name is Anita Shermer, and I live in Hatfield Township. I've been a longtime resident of the North Penn area. My concern is, as a citizen, I don't think any of us who were not in that room can say Donna Mangel said what she said, or accuse of saying, or exempt her. Either one would be unfair for any of us. I do not know her to be that kind of a person. My concern as a citizen is I am tired of the backroom votings. I am tired of the fact that all of you make decisions without a full quorum of the school board as to what happens to our schools and our children and our community. I'm nervous. I think it's inexcusable that the persons that I'm looking at right now wrote and released a letter to the public, one of whom is an attorney, without a hearing being held, to give privacy to all involved and dignity to all. I think this board, the majority of you, have been grossly unfair. I do not condone any comment that might have been made like that. But as an attorney, I would think that one would keep his mouth shut until all interviews had been made. And another member of the school board to go mailing a fax and letters to the public. I am an angry citizen. And I do view Mr. Darby to be the representative of those who choose to have the power, who choose to not listen to the citizens. And you will note I am not taking sides as to whether a statement was made or not. I'm angry at the way you people have handled this situation. That's what I'm angry at. I think you've all been a disgrace. And I will say, as a person who has been involved in the legal system myself and who is not dumb, I would think you would be very careful about statements released by letters before any questions could have been asked. And I will say in defense one thing of Donna Mengel or anyone who was in her shoes. I do not blame her for wanting to be questioned in public so that her words could not be distorted, or rather could be heard by all of us and she could hang by all of us or be exonerated by all of us. I don't think that was an unfair request of her to make. If you're going to question me, I want it to be in front of whoever so that I can be assured that the words I have spoken are the words that are heard. So I will remember you all in the elections. I will remember the fact that North Montco Votech at one time was all paid up. No bills, nothing. Do we remember those days? Whatever happened to those days when our schools were paid off? Those were proud days. I graduated from the old North Penn High School. The new one looks like a prison. It doesn't look like a school. So, as I said, I'm a very angry citizen, and I think you have very seriously mishandled this, and I think anyone who moves out of the area should get his gluteus maximus out of the school board, because if you don't live here, you shouldn't be on the school board.
Thank you. You can't, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Father Rock Schuler at 405 North Broad in Lansdale, and I represent Interfaith Alliance, Southeast Pennsylvania Interfaith Alliance, and I'm a member of the North Penn Ministerium. I just wanted to thank the school board for concluding this investigation. We look forward to the speedy release of the report as well. For the sake of the community, we believe that healing needs to occur within the community and that will not happen until a full disclosure is made and community discussion is allowed to occur in a variety of forums. So we would urge the earliest possible release of the report. I would also personally like to thank you, Mr. Bowman, for continuing as the president. I understand that it's been difficult, and I think you've done the responsible thing to do, and I appreciate it personally. I also think that since the North Penn Ministerium and the Ambler Ministerium, since we released our statement regarding this matter, we've been very troubled by the remark which Donna Mengel says she did. Disturbed, I believe, and upset by the fact that the community seems to continue to be focusing on the alleged remark, but not on the remark which Donna admits that she made. And we're also disturbed by the remarks that she made regarding the home and school associations. Many of our parishioners serve on those. My wife is a member, and we are very, very disturbed by the tone and the tenor of Donna's attitude towards these volunteers and the capacity in which they serve. And I would urge you to certainly not consider her for the presidency and not put her in any position of responsibility within the board and take whatever action on the basis of those remarks alone, irregardless of the alleged remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman.
Hi, Kathleen Malfi. I'm very sorry to see you go, Mr. Bowman. I feel that you've always come prepared to meetings and voted impartially, and I wish you good luck in Colorado.
Thank you.
You'll be luckier there than we've been here. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Bowes. This is a really tough meeting for you to have to be here for the first meeting. I agree with Reverend Schuler that as far as Mrs. Mengel's alleged remarks, I think that what she admits to saying is almost as bad as what she's accused of saying, and that's all I'm going to say about that, because it's a very emotional issue for me and for many people in this community, I feel. The issue I'm really concerned about right now has to do with my son's school, my son and daughter, who go to Gwinnett Square. I'm very concerned about the number of students in our schools this coming year. In our school, 4 first-grade classes are being put into 3 second-grade classrooms. I'm very worried about my son, who's going into 2nd grade. He just turned 7 2 weeks ago. He's young. When he was in kindergarten, he had some problems. He was tested for T1. He didn't get into that. He was tested for reading, didn't get into that. He did very well with his teacher this past year because they had good numbers and a teacher who really cared, and even during the strike gave me some advice. But I'm worried about large numbers. I tutored 2nd grade this year in reading, and I'm very worried that the teachers will not be able to get to each student if there are 27, 28, 29, or 30 children in a classroom. At this age, children still need much individual attention to hone reading, writing, and fine motor skills. I hope the new teacher will be added to this grade level, and I believe other elementary classes are suffering the same way in other schools. I'd like you to please look at the numbers in each class and provide what is needed. And I'd like to know what are the numbers that need to be in a classroom before another teacher would be added.
The classroom guidelines for 1st to 3rd is 25? 27.
It is 25?
23 to 25, and then 10% beyond that.
We can add an aid.
No, after the 10%, then they usually consider an aid.
And that would be an aid, though, not for each classroom, but for the whole grade.
I'm not sure how they did that.
Right? Yeah, I mean, that's what I've heard from friends of mine who are aides. So that an aid wouldn't be provided for each classroom, but for the whole grade, so that if all 3 classes needed the aid at the same time, they wouldn't get her.
Right.
Is there something else that can be done to add a teacher? Is there some other? What's the criteria for adding an aide to a class rather than adding a new teacher to create a whole new classroom?
Well, when the number exceeds 10%, then in all the classes, then that basically rolls you over to requiring a 4th teacher.
Okay.
The problem also may be that there was some declining enrollment from the 4 classes into the 3, and that's what created that problem. They may have been 320 classroom, 20 children, or 420 children classrooms. Right. That's 80, divided by 3 gives you just a little bit more than what you need for 3. Right. If you lost a few of those students and didn't get students to replace them, that gets you in a situation where now you're bumping up against the top of the guidelines, and that's why there's only 3 second-grade classes.
Okay.
Mr. Bowman, I think it's important to consider this year, though, we are not going to be able to add classroom teachers simply because we do not have classrooms to put them in. So as hard as we try to live with the class size guidelines, we don't have the kind of flexibility that we've had in the past in terms of creating new positions or new classrooms. I think district-wide, we only may have one or two places where we can create new positions right now.
Okay, I didn't know that was, I didn't even think about that. All right, thank you.
How about if we have Dr. Fike take a look at that in terms of the, all the classrooms the way we are, and then maybe bring a recommendation back to the board in terms of aides or things like that.
Sure.
I know it's a large class across the district, just like the
Just see where we are.
third going into fourth is also a large class. I know in our school it's really large, and they're going into a smaller number of teachers also. But I was concerned about that because at the beginning of this past year, they had, I think, 29 or 30 kids designated for each class for first grade, and then they, right, like a few days before school started, they took a second grade teacher down to first grade for those kids. And my son did have 20 in his class, which my daughter never had in her class when she was in first grade.
That's what will happen after around the 10th day enrollment, where we know all the children that show up that we didn't know about before, and then the ones that have left that we don't know that we're going to leave.
Right.
That's when there's obviously some fine tuning that has to happen. So the
Okay.
board will be advised by the administration
principal?
at that point.
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor?
I'm Bill Taylor from Lansdale, and I'm a Democrat, and I want to reveal some of the infighting in the Democratic Party just by saying that I can't imagine Mr. Darby writing anything that would get Mrs.
Nagel?
No. Yes, Mrs. Mengel. I had a fortunate slip from him. That would get Mrs. Mengel to resign. If he could, he'd be in Hollywood making millions by the day. Dr. Bose, I'm glad to see you. I respect your salary, and I'm sure we'll make sure we get our money's worth from you.
Thank you, Bill. The back? Sir.
Steve Becker, Hatfield Township. I would like to thank Mr. Potash for coming forward with his letter. As we learned in the 30s and 40s, silence is the most deadly prejudice there is. Thank you very much.
Any other hands? Mary Ann?
Mary Ann Stewart, Upper Gwinnett Township. I would just like to welcome Dr. Bose to the district. I'm sure you're very well aware of the crisis that this district is in, and you take the helm at a very critical time. And as a parent in this district, we hold out a lot of hope for what you will bring to this district, and unity and peace will be one of them. I too would like to thank Mr. Bowman for his tenure here. Any service, no matter what side of the coin you may choose, I admire the job you've done, and I appreciate the service that you've given us. The other comment I would like to make is I too am disappointed at the length of time that this investigation has gone on. I think the community does deserve a quick response. I hope this report is forthcoming so this issue can be resolved and we can move beyond this issue and beyond one person. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Ann. Any other hands in the back? Okay, well, I get them up so I can see them. Okay. Connie?
Connie Spire, Upper Gwinnett Township. I'd like to welcome Dr. Bose also. I'm pleased to see you here. I'd like to say that since this is not a regularly scheduled board meeting, I feel it's not the appropriate time to vote on the replacement for president, especially since it's my understanding the board members submitted days they were available, and the date was picked when 3 members were on vacation. I think it'd be better if the full board was here to make that decision.
Well, Connie, just to respond to that, there was no day in August when all the board members were going to be here. No day. So I had to pick a date that I could find for the most people that were here, and as president, make that decision. I chose today. Okay?
Okay, I'd like to discuss the major problem I feel that we have in our district at this time, somewhat along the same lines as Mrs. Stewart. Divisiveness and animosity continues to grow like a cancerous tumor. I feel the only way that this problem can be turned around is if everyone decides that this is in fact what they want. Instead of pointing a finger and trying to find fault, we need to look for the positive side of each individual that speaks. While it's important to share differences of opinion, it must be done respectfully and with good intentions. We must remember that we are all human and none of us are perfect. Hopefully the latest rift concerning an alleged anti-Semitic comment can be resolved soon, and we can work together to help heal the wounds that are left. I'd like to add that a few people have mentioned that if Donna Mengel made this statement, I'd just like to say that there is another side to that, and if she did not, these words came from somewhere. And so therefore I'd like to say that the individual or individuals who are responsible for making this statement, I hope that they are dealt with in an appropriate manner. Dr. Bond, getting back to healing the rift, once said that he feels that something can be learned from everyone that speaks, but we must listen with an open mind. Dr. Bose showed his desire to work together when negotiating his contract. He could have settled for much more, but he wanted to work together with the board as a whole. In growing up, I recall going to my mother when I felt I was wronged by my sister or one of my brothers. My mother didn't always give me the answer I was looking for. An answer I recall her giving me more than once that I feel is relevant here is, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. I don't claim to be free from fault. I'm going to try, and I hope others will as well. Together we can help Dr. Bose move this district forward. I'd also like to wish you and your family well in Colorado Tech. And I want to also thank you for your time that you've put in here. I think we can all agree that being a board member and certainly sitting in the president's seat is not an easy job. And I realize you might be here for another meeting or two, but in the event that I can't make it, I'd just like to say thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much. Any other hands? There being none, I see. Great, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Bose, you get your first meeting and your first report.
Well, thank you. I hope you bear with me if I say Wayne Township instead of North Penn, or Board of Education instead of Board of School Directors. After 17 years, you can adopt even speech patterns that direct and put your comments in ruts. I'm going to try to move out of that. Mr. President and members of the board, do you have a recommendation to waive the tuition status for certain students whose names are on file in the Student Service Special Ed Office in accordance with policy 5118? That is recommended to your attention.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Allen, second by Whites. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Likewise, there are some children who are precocious enough to start kindergarten before that date set by board policy and I believe state law, which is they must be 5 years of age by September 15th. And there is a procedure for waiving that and making exceptions based upon a readiness factor that the school staff can determine. And so there is a list on file in the same office recommending that the requirement be waived for these students, permitting them to enter kindergarten a year earlier than they would otherwise be eligible to. And that is recommended for your approval.
So moved.
Moved by Leahy,
Second.
second by Reckamp. Any questions?
Yes. Does anybody know how many?
Yes, there are 12 students currently on file.
Thank you.
The year after that, you take the SATs, right?
Right.
Just kidding. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We have a number of handicapped students who require special services such as physical training and occupational therapy. The Easter Seal Society provides such services at a reasonable rate. We're recommending your approval of our contracting with the Easter Seal Society to provide such services during the 95-96 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by White, second by Allen. Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On the next agenda item, this is an item Mrs. Scheer already spoke to, bringing it to your attention. There's a request that we amend our administrative policies and regulations and rules to add 2 academic tests and continue the same practice of providing parents notice of their opportunity to decline to withdraw their students from this program. And this is a change in those rules and regs which we recommend for your approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Leahy, second by Whites. Any questions? I just point out that it's not a policy item, it's a regulation which can be changed through a vote. A policy has to have 2 board readings.
I guess I have one question. The assessment test has been the controversial one in the past. Do we have, and some of the questions that they asked in that, and the concerns about whether information was going to be released were the issues. Can you make some assurances about those issues?
I think you're talking about the PSSA testing.
Yes.
Mr. Redcamp. Yes, this year it was purely academic. We did a presentation for the board in January with Dr. Trozzi and Mr. Decker and shared some of the items. The tests are public for parents to look at, and I will be sending an information letter to all parents who are involved in this testing, telling them they still have the ability to opt out, but it will be the responsibility of the parent to send back the form to the building principal, making that request.
Okay, so
these are purely academic measures.
If I understand it right, then all of the questions that were expressed as concerns a couple of years ago have been removed, and we're now taking this to an opt-out instead of an opt-in test.
Absolutely. The
Thank you.
questions you spoke about were how many magazines were read in the home.
Understand.
That was all declined.
Understand what
in the
they were,
test.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Judy. Any other questions?
Well, maybe I should speak too, because I spoke to Judy earlier, and she certainly knew that that would be a hot button with me. And I feel very comfortable with both the explanations and the reasons why there will still be full notification to the parent for this test. It's just a matter of this way, all those that never get returned because perhaps the parents never see them won't necessarily excuse the student.
That is a big concern with the principals, because although we have about 100 students a year whose parents formally opt them out, we have several where you can't get the permission form back, and we wonder if the parent ever saw it. And that becomes a serious issue because it will skew our results down the road.
Can we have it on the rolling screen so that we advise it?
Absolutely.
Parents, if you don't get it from your kid, ask them why they didn't bring it home.
Well, now they'll bring it home because otherwise they have to take the test.
Right.
The whole idea of avoiding returning it was that it will excuse them. So I just thought since people knew where I stood on that, it might help to give some validation to what we're doing.
That's great. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item E, again, Mrs. Scheer mentioned this. This will provide for a guarantee of 30 seats or slots in the Lakeside Alternative School for North Penn students whose education might be continued through this alternative to regular schooling. And the cost of that tuition for the school year would be a maximum of $348,300 if in fact we use all those slots. It is recommended that you approve this in order that we reserve those places in the event they're needed.
So moved.
Second by White, second by Redcamp. Any questions?
Just a question for clarification, Judy. On these spots and this amount, is this including the transportation? I know we use Lakeside's transportation, but is this only their space?
This is only for the portion of their academic program.
So then the transportation is going to be separate?
And we turn over back to the school any slots that we don't use, that we throughout the year.
Well, see, that's a little bit different, and that's why this contract is being brought to your attention. We're contracting for 30 students. At the present time, we have 26 direct placements as I sit here today, and 4 students that will be returning from probation that will turn back into a direct placement. So we have the 30. We're not purchasing any additional slots. I would have loved to have said to you, please give me approval to buy 40 slots, but the reality is we may not have those students until November, December, and you're paying that money up front. The Lakeside has been very generous with us, and they have offered to let us pursue any slots that school districts don't use that we can pick up. And we've had a good working relationship with them, so I feel comfortable that we'll get through this year. We talked about this at budget time, and this is certainly something we need to look at with Dr. Bo's direction for us operating our own alternative program.
Now, when we actually have 30 students in that school, do they stay for the whole year, or has it been depending on the terms that they were sent to the school?
It depends on the terms.
They could potentially come back, right?
But I will tell you that as soon as one is ready to come back, we have had one ready to go. And that has been consistent for the past 8 years.
They rotate there, but I don't know how many board members have seen it, but they have magnificent response services, considering that you're dealing with children that are placed there perhaps through the courts for violent behavior and big social problems.
I know full well what they do there.
Right. Well, I was there when the alarms went off. Well,
Understand.
I had another question, Dick. Typically, there's 2 ways kids get there. Either we place them, we refer them, or the court places them. This only relates to our referrals. Is that true?
This is our direct
typically, we do
placements.
have court placements above this number.
Yes, we do.
But they don't count in this number.
They do not count in this number.
Great. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
The next recommendation, request your approval of an employee assistance contract with the Penn Foundation at a cost of $35,650 annually.
So moved.
Moved by White, second by Reckamp. As I understand it, this is the same as last year?
Yes,
No
it is.
increase,
Exactly.
Any other questions, comments?
Can you tell us how much it gets used?
It's widely used. National figures typically run about 5–6%, and we've been above the national averages for probably the whole time we've been in that program. And especially when you go through a year like we did last year, there's a lot of usage.
Okay.
I think it's about 8% this year, Bill.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The recommendation to renew the agreement with the Lansdale Medical Group would provide athletic training services for North Penn High School, and the annual cost is $20,000.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Reckamp, second by White. Any questions or comments?
Judy, is this a change in services? What do you think?
I think Dr. Pfeiffer originally.
Oh,
Yes, Vic, last year was $18,000. It's a $2,000 increase.
but isn't it a different group? Did we use
No,
Lansdale?
we were with Lansdale Medical Group
Okay, I
last
thought we were
Year before
using a
that.
private therapist.
No.
Okay,
Year before that.
thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
H is a recommendation to establish for certain instructional part-time personnel in the community education program the salaries for the next school year. So recommended.
So moved.
Moved by Leahy.
Second.
Second by Reckamp. Any questions?
Just for clarification, I think it's important that it's community education. These are all recovered through the fees
Yes.
and the
Right.
payments, and so for those in the audience,
It's a
this is not coming
self-sustaining
out of the
program.
district's
That's correct.
taxpayer finances.
That's
Right.
correct.
Okay?
That's important to note. Thank you, Vicki. Any questions, other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is a change order recommendation from Mr. Wood in the renovation of Penndale Middle School. We've discovered that we need an initial asbestos abatement service. So this service for $11,885 is a change order from the contract originally negotiated and is recommended for your approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Allen, second by Whites. Any comments, questions?
I think I better hold it for it to return.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
I don't
that's-
know.
I can, part,
Can you?
yes, I went over to the school. One of the things I was shown with why we need this is they were taking walls down in the bathrooms. They found asbestos-covered pipes that had to be dealt with. It's required. You just can't trash them. You must go through the legal procedure of abatement of asbestos. And they didn't know it was there when they did the initial proposal.
As I gathered from the change order write-up, though, it was stated how there was a separate bidding. It was sort of combined into the bids, but yet they were separate, that in the event that there would be the other need, that there would be,
Right.
this would be the price that was offered by each of the different companies.
That's correct.
So what I wanted to know was, were we free, was this actually the lowest bid as a separate job? Or is it only because it's somehow encumbered because of the original work?
It's both. It's the lowest bidder for this type of work. We've had
Okay.
this as an add-on, and it's the people that are doing the work.
And the people that were already doing it
Yeah.
are the actual,
Yeah.
okay, thank
They
you
were
very much.
lowest on both.
Make me feel comfortable there.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next, the board is asked to consider accepting a number of gifts for 4 of our elementary schools that total over $25,000, and your acceptance makes them school board property, and that approval is recommended for your attention.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Allen, second by Shear. Any questions or comments? Just like to comment, thank the people and the Home and School Associations for doing that. It regularly provides good services for our district and our schools. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
A purchase of certain technology equipment listed on BA 8 is brought to your attention with the request that you approve said purchase.
Is there a motion?
Find our place here.
BA8.
Technology
It's
education.
right behind the one
So
on
moved.
asbestos.
Yes, it is.
This is the one, right?
It's titled Bid Award Summary. It is
So moved.
right behind BA.
Second.
Is that, did you?
I moved to second.
Shear, moved by Shear, second by Allen. Any questions?
Would someone want to
Everyone
just,
find it?
sure.
Okay.
Carnage here, what use will these be? Are these administrative? Are they classroom? Do we have any use?
Yes, they're administrative,
They're
Dr.
all
Bose. Yes, they are.
administrative.
They're going to be used to tie in the Pendale with this building into the mainframe.
Email and,
Correct. It consists, Mr. Shar, of pulling fiber optic cable so that they can be directly connected so we can save on modem costs on the telephone.
sure. Okay, so these are the administrative.
You know, that cost will be
Use.
amortized very quickly.
That's true.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have a long list of personnel. It is the time of year all across the country when offices like Mr. Smith's are gearing up to staff the schools and deal with last-minute departures and the conclusion of hiring for a new school year. So bear with us, and as we recommend that you approve the nomination of the professional employees, about 28 of them, and remember the addendum, so we're talking about those listed on BA3 and those on BA1, 2, BAA7. Those new employees are recommended for your approval.
If no other board members has an objection, I would take the entire personnel section of that report and put it into one motion. All of the salary corrections, salary changes, resignations, support staff, nominations, retirements, et cetera, all of them on BA through BAA 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Is there,
With the addendum.
with the addendum, and put them all into one motion?
Would that include the approval of Mrs. Irvin as coordinator of food services?
Yes.
Yes.
That's on it.
Right.
No objection.
I so move that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Reccamp for all the personnel actions through 10, BA 10.
And
What
BAA 1.
BAA 1 of the addendum. Is that right?
Through
For
10.
BAA 10.
Right, moving everything in the personnel report, including those 3 pages,
all of it.
10 pages on the addendum.
It's almost completed.
It takes us down to information items, right?
Why not throw
Down
vandalism
to
into?
info items, down to the- Everybody understand what that's for? Any questions or concerns, or
Are we voting on combining them all at
the
this
entire,
time?
no, we're voting on, the motion was made to combine them all into one
No, we
motion,
just vote.
to accept them all.
Okay. I'd like to make a comment.
This is proper time.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate Mrs. Irving for her coordinator of food services. She's done a great job, and I think she was the proper choice to fill Mr. Hartenstein's shoes. And I don't know where she is.
If I can make
Is
a
she here?
comment. I'm sorry, we were hoping this was going to be on if we had a July meeting. Unfortunately, Mrs. Irvin can't be here. She's on vacation this week, but I'd like her to come back at the next meeting. And I'd like to thank the board for putting their confidence in her. She's done a bang-up job these past few months as interim coordinator, and she deserves her job.
I agree.
Let me, if I may, point out one correction for
I don't
your
see that.
attention before you vote on the motion to approve all the personnel items. On B6, under 1.8, a correction in the per hourly rate for those staff added because of a larger than expected summer school enrollment. That figure should be $22 an hour.
Where's this?
If you would correct that, please, so you're voting on the motion. Will
As
cover
amended.
that. Thank you.
Okay. There again, summer school is a reimbursed cost. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Goes to
carries.
that side.
Okay, we move on to the vandalism report.
The vandalism report is included among your materials, and it's brought to your attention for any comment or consideration you might give it. It requires no action.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. That concludes your report.
That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. See, your first one was an easy one.
They should all be that easy.
I didn't read that salary.
Okay, we have some other business that we now have to attend to, and the items are in your, on your agendas. I'll ask and read them off, and if anyone so chooses to move approval, please do so. Is there a recommendation for approval of to ratify the approval of Marilyn Canavan as the signatory on official documents in the absence of the board secretary effective July 1st, 95?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Reccamp, second by Allen. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a recommendation for approval of the ratification of Deborah Schmidt as tax collector for 95-96 school year for the Line Lexington residents of the school district in Bucks County at an annual salary of $600?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Leahy, second by Whites. Any questions?
What happened to our other gentleman?
He died. Sorry. Sorry to say that. Yeah, unfortunate, very unfortunate. He was a nice guy.
Yeah, he was. Very nice.
Question, for this fiscal cycle, is that money prorated, or is it all paid, and are we paying twice for this?
We pay
one fiscal year?
twice a year, Mr. Camp. We pay in January and June.
She's the spouse.
She's Mr. Schmidt's wife.
Surviving spouse.
And she had helped him a great deal last year, so she was willing to take it on.
We still make one payment for this, for each fiscal year. I mean, well, $600 is the total for each fiscal year.
For the whole year, correct.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a recommendation for approval of transfer of $3,000 from the general fund to the North Penn School District Authority for their operating?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by White, second by Allen. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a recommendation for approval to refund $79.11 in school real estate taxes on parcels acquired by Hatfield Township for a roadway?
So moved.
Moved by Reckcamp.
Second.
Second by Whites. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a recommendation for approval for the exemption of parcel, the number is listed in Montgomery Township, assessed at $50?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Reckcamp, second by Allen. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Now before us, and it's not on our agenda, we need to decide on the release date for the Darby investigation report and what that release will consist of, specifically the report and the attachments, or just the report, and also if the board chooses to charge for the copying services of that. So I'll open that for board discussion and comments, and ultimately a recommendation from a board member for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. Let's get it started.
Okay?
And then we can defeat it if we wish. And I say this in deference to Mrs. Mengel, who, being the subject of the report, should at least we should give her the dignity of seeing it before the public does. With her expected to be back on either late the 14th or early the 15th of next month, which is Tuesday, next week, excuse me, next week. I recommend that we make the report available to the public on August 16th, which is next Wednesday.
Time? You want to conclude?
Time?
A particular time?
I'm out of here.
No, a particular time of the day.
Time of day?
Yeah.
We don't have a time.
I would ask Ken, he's the one that's going to have to handle the people. What's good for you?
Ron, I'll repeat your words in deference to Mrs. Mengel. If she is returning on Tuesday morning,
Is it Tuesday?
noon Wednesday?
Fine.
Noon
I'll put that, make
Wednesday?
that part of my motion, noon on Wednesday.
Okay.
Do we have confirmation of that time, that she would be back in the morning, not at night?
She indicated to me that she would be back by Tuesday morning.
And to me also.
Wednesday, August the 16th.
16th.
Mr. Clemens will not be here
At
for the...
1200. Okay? Or 12
I
o'clock.
believe you also informed us that you had contacted her and she did not want it sent to her.
Did not
FedEx.
want them FedEx, that's correct. Which was offered. First of all, before we have the discussion, is there a second to that motion?
Like,
The motion is
Motion seconded.
to provide the report and have it available to the public on noon, at noon on Wednesday, August 16th, 1995.
That's correct.
And it's been moved by Mr. Allen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Redcamp. Is there any discussion on that particular timing?
Only mine in regards for when this will be received and how much there will be to review. I mean, there's not only one report, but an extreme number of pages.
That's the next part of this. What we're going to release will be another motion.
Well, maybe, but it relates to the date, because it relates, first of all, for board members themselves to have full insight into what's in there. There's a considerable amount of reading. Mr. Clemens will not be available to receive his until the 19th. From what I understand, it's virtually impossible that he would receive it any sooner.
True.
And I feel that concerning this meeting taking place with the short notice that it was, and through everyone's unfortunate circumstances of timing, that I do feel that we have to give them equal weight in this. And then we'd also have a subsequent meeting date. I believe once you release the report, Dick, we're also probably going to reconvene as a board.
Oh, absolutely.
And Mr. Clemens, we're going to be so far ahead of him. And
Well, as
I'm
we were
also not
advised-
sure if Mrs. Mengel would have the time to catch her breath on this.
and so that people know, within the report, it contains options available to the board for how we can take action, or what actions are available to us, what legal actions we can take and what are not legal actions we can take. And so the board is going to have to understand those first before they convene, and I would suggest that when we reconvene, it's only after all the board members have had a chance to read it. I don't know that constrains when we deliver it to the public. We're trying to be fair and prudent in terms of getting it to all the board members prior to the release to the public. I think that's the intent of Mr. Allen's statement.
I put myself in somebody's position that isn't here, and if I knew the report went out before I saw it, it wouldn't bother me. The public has a right to know. The public is as much involved with this as we are. There's nothing that says that a board member cannot have a question after the public has the report. If somebody in the community asks me a question and I don't know the answer, I'll just say I don't know the answer. But I don't think I have to know 100% of everything and have read it and asked all my questions before these people read it.
Well,
so I don't think it's needed.
I would just say I believe the report does have to be released. That pledge was made when we undertook this. I will also say that we ended up with far more turmoil when it was released and everyone was totally unprepared to know exactly what had happened, and we were not at all ready because of the inability to ask our questions before it created a firestorm. That's how this all started. If you understand what I mean.
Here again, and I'm holding all board members accountable for this. It's stamped confidential. Board members received it that are here. The other board members will receive it. And they are not to discuss it with anyone or release it to anyone.
Can I ask you one more question?
I'm adamant about that.
Can I ask you, will our cabinet members have the opportunity to receive it within at least some timelines before it hits the media? Can we also, did we give any direction? I don't believe so.
No.
Those who would be involved and also affected.
I believe that the board has it. The board received it from our attorney, our special counsel, and that's part of our document.
Okay.
I think at the point it's released to administration, the solicitor, or the public should all happen at the same time.
Mine was only concerned to perhaps give Tom Clements also equal opportunity.
I mean, I would love to have it, to be able to get it to Tom, but unfortunately that's just, I think that's waiting too long because of the time he's going to be way out of town. I mean, that's over more than a week away, and I don't think that's prudent.
And it is unfortunate, that's a Saturday, I guess, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, he will have a copy of the report as soon as he returns, or as soon as he gets to somewhere where we can get a copy to him, we'll do that, yeah, when he returns to civilization.
But just to clarify, my objection's just on the date. I certainly know it needs to be released, and I know there are a lot of people very anxious to receive it.
And part of the discussion here, there's a proviso, obviously, to be fair and prudent so that the board members can get it. And that's why we set a date, understanding that when Mrs. Mengel returns and Mrs. Perkowski will be returning, and that's why that date was chosen. I think that's based on those plans, fair and prudent. Is there any question or concern to move that up or move that back?
I would prefer to see it moved up. I believe some of the comments that were made here tonight, the question, the character of members of the board, members of the administration, and our various councils. All of that leads me to believe that to remove some of the question about them, that report should be made available as soon as possible. And I believe that should be done before Wednesday. As soon as we can get... As soon as logistics allow us to make copies of the report.
I would like to agree with Mr. Weitz. I believe that, again, the community has been delayed through all of this, and it is the community who is affected by this. It is not the board, it is the community who is affected by this. And delaying for another week just merely agonizes this community and divides this community even further.
Any other comments or concerns or questions about, obviously, if you don't favor that date and time, you vote against it, and we'll entertain other motions for other dates and times. Any other questions regarding Mr. Allen's motion? Here again was for August 16th at noon.
I think that you handled as a separate issue exactly what's going to be put out.
Yes, well, that'll be the next item that we talk about, okay? This is for release of the report. What that report will be, after we decide on when it's going to be reported, and that may take a few votes here, or when it's to be released, then we'll also decide on part 1 or part 2 kind of thing, okay? All those in favor of Mr. Allen's motion to release the report to the public on noon, Wednesday, at noon on Wednesday, August 16th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
We can have a roll call vote, Mr.
Doesn't
Weir.
matter whether there's
Mr. Allen?
6
Yes.
here.
Mrs. Leahy?
No.
Mr. Reckcamp?
Yes.
Mrs. Scher?
Yes.
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 Mr.
Might as
White?
well.
No.
Mr. Bowman?
Yes.
Human beings.
I have 4 voting yes and 2 voting no.
It's a majority of the board present, so the motion passes. Okay? Now,
We
it's,
didn't even need a vote.
it's
so-
before, technically not, but
So we didn't.
I prefer to vote. Because it's, right now, it's a privileged document, and that's why it will not be released to the public by any member of the board based on our vote today.
I'm just clarifying why we didn't have to restrict it to the 5, to a
Understand.
requirement of 5 votes.
Okay, yeah, it's not that. Secondly now, there are 2 parts of the report. There's statements and supporting documents that Mr. Darby has put together in a compendium of annexes to the document. And we need to decide now whether that's a significant part of the report, because the report is merely his findings and conclusions and recommendations to the board, along with, I think, a couple not minor, but addressing some specific questions. It's my belief that it's all one report. I'd entertain a motion to any extent, one way or the other. There's only 2 things that we can do, either the report and the report plus the annex, so I'll entertain any motion for that.
I make a motion that we release the entire report, and the annex as one document.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on that? Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstention.
Okay. We have 5 yeas and 1 abstention. So the motion carries. Now, since this is a very voluminous document, probably a minimum of 200-plus pages, 200 pages with statements, there may be a significant cost in terms of reproduction of this.
I would make a motion that Mr. Weir determines what the cost of reproduction is, and that we charge a nominal cost to cover the cost of reproduction of this document, since we might have quite a few of them going out the door.
Past practice would indicate that we print on 2 sides and that we charge 8 or 10 cents a page. Correct. And we do it with the fewest pages possible. To include everything.
Conclude everything, that's what we've done.
We're looking at $8 to $10.
I haven't guessed the number of pages. I can't estimate the number of pages, and I don't believe they're all numbers.
Can you have that number by the end of the day tomorrow, so they'll know, people would know before Monday morning what it's going to cost to get one?
I will have that number tomorrow.
Thank you.
I would like to know also if people who do not want to take or buy the copy, if they would be allowed to come in and peruse the copy.
Absolutely.
We will have 3 copies available, and we can have a room such that people can sit and read and take notes if they so choose. You could make that available, Mr. Weir?
Courtesy copies will be available. I think we should have an agreement that people don't request photocopies of sections or pages.
True.
You read a copy or you buy a copy. With your permission, that would be manageable.
Yes, I can't see Wade using district time to make copies for people
Of selected
of selected
passages.
pages. That's counterproductive to your time. So, can I have a motion that includes all those?
I make a motion that, that Ken Weir determines a reasonable cost for duplication. We charge that amount, and that we have at least 3 copies available at this building, available for anybody to read. People can either read the report here or buy the report.
Okay, can I add an amendment to that? For people that come in to read the report, they will sign the report out from Mr. Weir and have their name crossed off when they return it. I don't want people taking copies of pages out of the report either. It has to be returned intact. So they have to sign for them when they, just like in classified material with the government, you have to sign your name and verify that you have it. And that way we don't have documents mysteriously walking out of the building.
There's no staples around there, it costs 4 cents a shoot.
Okay.
And staples, and they'll do it for you for about 3.5 cents, 4 cents a sheet. Maybe some, a couple copies.
Sir, we'll work on the cost, sir. Okay, is there a second to Mr. Redcamp's motion?
Yes,
Do you
amended.
accept my
Yes.
my amendment? Is there a second to Mr. Redcamp's motion with the amendment?
Second it.
Second by Alan. As I understand the motion now, before we comment on it, it's that Mr. Weir will have it reproduced, establish what that cost will be based on the number of pages, which will be fair and reasonable to the public to purchase, as well as having 3 documents which can be signed out and reviewed here in the building in a pre-designated location from the time of release on during normal district hours here within the school district, within the building hours. Is there any comments or questions about that motion? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Are there any other items regarding the Darby report that we need to address that I may have missed?
Only the issue I raised regarding internal release for those necessary.
Internal release.
Part of those that are a part of the report that have yet to see what it says. Do you understand we have other interested parties that are a part of our administrative staff? You've established a date for the public. Do you feel that it's fair that, essentially our internal, those who are involved in this incident would receive their copy either by purchasing it from Mr. Weir, or will we provide one for them so that they also will be, once this hits the public, Dick, let's think, there's going to be people that are going to be contacting them also.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And that's, I'll open that for your discussion.
The parties that were interviewed definitely should have a right to the document.
But that document will be released on
Those names are listed
Wednesday.
in the front of the document.
At no cost.
Yeah.
At no cost,
Yeah.
then they should have an opportunity, whether if you want to wait until Monday or Tuesday.
They shouldn't necessarily have to pay for it.
With confidentiality.
Monday with confidentiality.
Release it Wednesday to those people.
It's just out of due
They've gotten their
respect.
signed, if they made a statement, they got their things back
They know what's in their signed
They know what's in
statement.
their signed statement. Those people would get it Wednesday when everybody else does. If you were interviewed, you get it free. How's that?
Well, they don't know
Why
the
don't they
summary.
have the right to get it
I
beforehand?
think they absolutely have the
Certainly.
right to get it as soon as they can be reproduced. They were interviewed, they were part of the process, they deserve to have the document prior to the release of the public. And I'll add,
they
if
have
they
this-
agree to maintain the confidentiality of the
That's fair.
contents until the public release.
Of the employees, I don't know that there were any outside players in the interviews. I don't believe so.
Can we make a motion that,
No, let me find out who was interviewed. And,
Let's just say within because otherwise you have no influence outside.
It's fine.
Dick, I'd like to make,
I don't think it needs to be in the form of a motion, just
find
to
out
direct
how
us.
many we're talking
Page
about.
we did it for
Page
the
4,
audience.
Dick.
That was unnecessary.
Yeah, that's another,
I don't believe it neither required a formal action. Though.
We did it for the public, we should do it for the employees also.
Actually, within the second report, there's only eight interviews included, so.
They're all internal, are they not?
Yes, they're all internal. And in fact, of those 8, 1, 2, 3, 4 are board members, so there's only essentially 4 people internal, including Dr. Persing, who is technically not internal anymore, but was internal. You know, I'm open to suggestions on how to handle that.
Once again, I believe it should be distributed to them and obtaining their agreement to maintain confidentiality of the document until it's released on Wednesday. They have a right to see the entire report as persons that were interviewed.
It's a series of...
I make a motion that we release the document to the other persons mentioned in the report other than board members on the agreement that they maintain the confidentiality of the contents of the report until Wednesday, and the reports be made to them as soon as possible.
Tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow.
Does that include non-district employees?
Everyone that was part of the process, if they agree to maintain the confidentiality of the contents.
And that's
can't monitor
4
that.
people is listed in the.
There's 4 other individuals.
No one else, except Bruce. Ooh, we may have one conflict.
Yes.
Dr. Persing is scheduled to be on WNPV radio on Tuesday. At which time, if they'll be addressing...
Dr. Persing told me in person today in this atrium that he would not appear on WNPV until the report was made public, unless I misunderstood him, and I don't think I did.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, because if we've talked about having regard for the board members involved in this, particularly Ms. Mangle, you know, it's just something that
He
I'm like,
assured me he would not discuss the report until it was made public.
Oh, so his intention was for the report.
Okay. Mr. Weiss has made a motion on the floor that has not yet been seconded. It's been seconded by Mrs. Mengel to release the report.
I think so.
Or, I'm sorry.
Try that one
Well,
more
that's a
time,
slip
Dick.
one.
Just one more time.
By Mrs. Leahy.
Thank you, sir.
Interesting that I did this.
It's interesting that you're leaving soon,
It's
too.
been a hell of a month, I'll tell you. Boy, blushing on that one. It's been moved by Mr. Weitz and seconded by Mrs. Leahy
Thank you.
to release the report to those people interviewed that are not members of the board. Any questions or comments? Or tomorrow afternoon, as soon as possible. Any questions or comments regarding that? None? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So will be released to those people, and you have their names, Mr. Wood.
Yes, I do.
Any other items concerning the Darby report? Okay, it's now at that point in time where I will officially resign as president, and we need to, I will entertain motions for an interim president to sit here, to entertain motions for a permanent president to be voted on. So is there anyone like to be nominated for?
Before we go into this, could I please have some clarifications from Mr. Potash as to our legalities of this? This is kind of sprung on us, and we really didn't know that this was something that could be done. Is that possible?
Well, Mr. Potash, you want to comment on that?
Well, I believe that Carmen has a point. If you look closely at your bylaws require that you follow the Roberts Rules of Order when you when you don't have a procedure or a policy to carry out a particular board situation. If you were to resign as president this evening, there is no procedure in your policy other than the vice president of the board would assume the responsibility until a president was elected. You'd have to look to Robert's Rules of Order, and under those Robert's Rules of Order, if I recall, requires notice to have the election of officers. And accordingly, I don't believe that you can take that action precipitously this evening.
What's the required notice? I believe it's 3 to 7 days, something along those lines.
If that's the case, then I'll withdraw my resignation.
That doesn't stop
I don't
you
want to
from
create any more
resigning.
chaos than we already have. I was doing it because I will no longer be able to serve as president, and technically Mrs. Mengel is not here. We need someone as an interim president, and that's why.
She could have sent tomorrow.
I mean, it's happened before when both of us have been out of town, and I guess as long as I remain president, there should be no question to that then.
There's nothing to, he can resign his seat. What you're just saying, we can't renominate it tonight. Renominate tonight.
That is correct.
We could reconvene at a future time.
That is correct. Giving sufficient notice, reasonable notice,
What is reasonable notice?
I would say about 5 days.
5 days?
Sure, 3 to 5 days. Could do it really under the Sunshine Act by 24-hour notice, but it would appear that that's really, I think your board members are entitled to have more sufficient notice to elect a president. And I would say between 3 and 5 days. If you were to reorganize under the school code, you would require 5 days notice.
So the minimum is 3 days.
Okay, what we'll do then, I'll recommend that Mr. Weir poll all the members of the board as to when the next time we could all convene, or the majority of us can convene a session, and I will make my resignation letter as president effective that day, so that that board meeting can be properly advertised, and then a president can be elected. And until that time, we'll continue as we are. Okay, and knowing that Mr. Clemens will be out of town until at least the following week, why we will be the week of the 21st. Okay, so the board members that are here, please get with Mr. Weir as to what days you'll be available that week, and he will poll the other members of the board at that time, and then we can set up a meeting for that time. Clear? Yeah. Well, I don't know if people have asked me, and if I am here, because I will not be a seated member of the board beyond that time, or beyond a month, I don't feel it's, I should be voting on who should be president. I think that the board president should be elected by the peers that will be seated with that president. And so if I am here for that day, I will not vote for any of the candidates for election. If the board so chooses, once they seat another person, then there's procedures within the regulations to remove the existing president and with 9 members now and revote. So that can take place after September, as I understand it. Okay, is that clear? Anything else?
I will not be here the week of the 21st.
Okay, so, well, we'll advise Mr.
Sometimes.
Weir of that, and then I will, based on a date that we can get with every board member as to when they're going to be here, we will, I will schedule my resignation to coincide with that. Okay? All right, well, now you made me do the rest of this. Okay, we'll move to the treasurer's report. Mr. Kelly, you can wake him up over there.
Thank you.
Just kidding, Dennis.
I'll be giving you 2 months' worth of financial information. For the month of June 1995, we had receipts for the month of $4,250,586.03. Year-to-date receipts, $91,518,476.09. Disbursements for the month of June, $13,711,120.02. Year-to-date disbursements, $90,541,411.42. At June 30th, we had term investments of $9,191,270 and temporary investments of $371,275. For the month of July 1995, we had receipts month and year-to-date of $3,256,350.92. Disbursements monthly and year-to-date, $8,039,384.15. term investments at July 31st of $2,724,870, and temporary investments of $1,883,262. That concludes the treasurer's report.
Any questions of Dennis? I have one. Why did our term investments go down? Did we pay some bills, a lot of bills?
The retroactive pay, Mr. Bowman, was paid out on July 21st.
Ah, okay. So that was the teachers, in terms of the teacher's contract?
That's correct.
Okay.
And also during the month of July, we have a lot of big, as you'll see in the check register, a lot of big insurance bills, a lot of the year startup costs.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Any other questions of the treasurer's report? Okay. We need to approve the invoices from the general fund. Mr. Kelly again.
Yes. I recommend approval of the disbursements for the months of June and July in the amount of $22,641,555.06, and approval of the disbursements for the month of August in the amount of $204,202.11.
So moved.
Big difference.
Second.
Big difference. Okay, it's been moved by Reckcamp, second by Allen. Any questions or comments?
Food service report?
No, we're not to there yet. All those in favor of the approval of the invoices, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dennis. Food services report. Get them all tonight.
Yeah. We, for the month of June 1995, we had total income of $287,533.49. Raw food cost of $148,150.04. Our operating costs were $202,122.79 for a loss during the month of June of $62,739.34. Our net profit, however, for the year, $49,168.72.
That's great, Dennis. Came out in the black.
We did.
Any questions on Dennis of the food service report?
Only to let you know that Dennis, and we've spoken before on this, there's going to be a change in the future months with separating the breakfast account from the lunch account. When you see that, for all you to realize, that's just so that we can maintain that separation and ability to review and make sure that our funds, one is not necessarily subsidizing the other, since you're dealing with two different buying markets.
And it also has to do with what we get reimbursed from the state.
Right,
By keeping
well,
them
since some of the
separate.
board members during the past year had some reservations about the breakfast program, I had asked Carol Gavin at July 1st to have separate accounts for breakfast and lunch. So
That's
we
great.
can
what's
keep track
also-
of that.
Will that be transparent to the kids, though, when the parents write a check and put that in their
No,
account?
that will not be, no, that won't be transparent
No.
to the kids. It's just gonna be kept, it's gonna be kept track of separately on the cash register, so we'll be able to
Yeah, that's what I mean.
separate
It's,
that.
in other words, their account, they won't.
They won't see any change
see
in the
any
way their
change. It'll be
accounts handle.
transparent.
No.
This is really only to make sure
It's just an
that each
accounting
one's carrying
procedure.
their own weight, and we're not
Great.
having
Oh, I
lunch
agree.
buyers covering.
Subsidizing the breakfast.
And having our rates
Or
go up
vice
perhaps
versa.
because of that, right.
No, that's great, and that, it certainly helps us understand the viability of the breakfast club.
program.
Right.
Or the breakfast program, breakfast club. Okay. The breakfast club. Federal programs, Dr. Fike.
No report, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Solicitor's report, Mr. Potash.
No report.
Thank you. Anything else for the board?
Move, we adjourn.
So moved. We're done. We're adjourned.
Very well.